and welcome to Talks with Shay. So today I would like to begin with reading from Psalm chapter 73 and verse 26. And it says, "My flesh and my heart faileth, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever." So today, for part 4 of Christmas Stressors, I would like to talk to you about grief. So when I'm talking about grief, we all know what grief is, right? We all have been through grief and the whole process with grief in our lives already, right? But when I think about just the holiday season and some of the grief that people are dealing with, it's hard. You know, there's 5 different stages of grief. You have denial, you have anger, you have bargaining, depression, and acceptance. So you don't know where you are. Well, maybe I just helped you out to see where you are in that process today. But you know, we're talking about the stressors of Christmas, and grief can be very stressful during the holiday season. You know, if you're that person that's dealing with grief, and this may be the first Christmas without someone or something, and when I say something, I'm talking about, like, for example, a house that maybe somebody lost through a house fire or something like that. That's a thing that people can actually grieve through that. You know, when I think about even grieving, when I think back to when my grandmother died, she died in November. And the first Christmas was very hard, especially because we did it at her house all the time. And so it was very different for us. So I had to go through the grief process with that. And then a few years ago, her house burned down. You know, we rented it out to a family, and the house caught on fire or whatever, and it was not able to be salvaged in any way, so they tore it down or whatever. But there was times when I would maybe be passing through the town or whatever and would just pass down the street in front of the house just to be reminded of where I grew up with my grandmother. But once the home was burned down, it's like that memory has completely vanished. And so when I think back to even when the house burned down, y'all, I literally went through the grief process with all of that, because it was like I felt like that was the last thing that I was holding on to that was like tangible that me and her had. And I grew up there and it was gone. So I had to grieve through that again, you know. And so I don't know, you know, whether it's a person that you lost or a thing, but whatever it might be, wherever you are in those 5 stages of grief, my encouragement to you today is, for one, recognize where you are. Well, before you even recognize where you are, recognize that you are grieving and that you're going through the grief process. Number 2 would be recognize what stage you're in. You know, there's really not a certain order, because sometimes you can bounce back and forth with it. One day you might feel depressed, the next day you feel like you're bargaining, you know, whatever. It may go back and forth, but it's good to be aware and mindful of where you are through the grief process. The holidays is going to be hard for those people that are grieving something fresh, or maybe sometimes it's something old, you know. But when I think about it, it might be hard, but one thing I know for sure, that God promised he would never put more in us than we can bear. He never said we would want to bear it because a lot of times we don't want to bear it. But if you're that person and Christmas is bringing that grief stress upon you, I pray that God would bring comfort to you, strengthen you and your family, and that he would bring people in your life to be there for you. You know, if we know of somebody that is going through a fresh grief right now, and Christmas is going to be extra hard for them, it's up to us to be able to reach out to those people, to encourage them and let them know that you're there and that you care. It goes a long way. You know, when I think about even today, tell y'all what happened to me today. I went to this place, I had this appointment, and this receptionist was like, poor customer service, like horrible, y'all. It was ridiculous. I remember somebody saying it was after COVID. It's almost like because of COVID, when everything opened back up, people had done got so used to not having interaction with people that it almost made it worse. And it may be true, but back to my story, she had a bad attitude. So we sitting in the waiting room and this other lady, and I'm like, she got a bad attitude. And she was like, she really does. And I was like, wow. And she said, and I'm a friendly person, me and my daughter. I said, me too. I'm a friendly person. So it was like when she called my name and I went to the back, I put it in my mind. I'm like, she's not about to ruin my day. And I hope that I can help her to have a better day. So when I got in the back, or whatever, I was like, hello, how you doing? And, that is such a cliche for us to automatically say a lot of times, hello, how you doing? And so, she was like, I'm okay, but she didn't sound okay. So I was like, you sure? Like that. And she was like, like that. So whatever, however it went. So then I told her, I said, was you tired today? And she was like, yeah, I'm tired. And I was like, ready to get off, huh? She said, I am ready to get off. Now, granted, it ain't even 1 o'clock, y'all. But anyway. So she was like, yeah, I'm ready to get off, And I was like, okay. I said, started making just basic conversation, y'all. By the time she finished doing her job, the lady ain't want me to go. And I'm like, look, I need to roll up out of here. But my point is this. Sometimes you got to bring God to people because you don't know what a person is dealing with. The holidays are very hard for a lot of people for a number of reasons. So if you see somebody maybe having a bad day, bring the love of God to them, into their situation, into their world. I'm telling y'all, this lady started talking. She didn't want to stop talking, and so it was like good to see, and I was like, Lord, I thank you that I didn't just go in there with a bad attitude because she had a bad attitude, but I chose to bring God to her, and it helped her attitude. And that's what we have to remember. We don't know what people are dealing with. These stores is crazy. The traffic is ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? And it's just craziness all over the place. We don't know what people are dealing with. You really don't. So you need to be that person that bring the love of God into their world. That might be the only love of God they see for their day. Why not it be you? And so when I think about just people that may be grieving, and if you're watching tonight or today and you're going through the grief process, I pray that God will lead you through this season and strengthen you, and that he will show himself real to you, because it's not easy. And I'm not going to sit here and say it is, because it's not. I don't think I will ever let go of the pain of losing my grandmother. She's been gone, I think, since 2016, November 26th of 2016, if I'm not mistaken, but 2016 for sure. And I literally sometimes is still bawling, crying, missing her. So don't think of it being like, well, that's old. It doesn't matter. It's still the pain. It's still there. If you're grieving, grieve. It's part of life. God created us this way, and he expects us to go through that process. Don't let people discourage you by telling you that you should be over this already. Everybody go through the grief process differently. Everybody goes through it on their own timing. So when people say stuff like that, I'm like, that's so insensitive, because you don't know what it's going to take to get that person through it. I even think about when my grandmother died, and I just was like, I had a lady tell me one time, and she was like, I know what it feel like. I lost my grandmother too. I went to say, you don't know, because you don't know my relationship. Like, mine raised me. Did yours raise you? And even if hers did raise you, y'all didn't have the same relationship as I had with mine. And so it's like, sometimes I feel like people say that because they almost don't know what to say. Now, you may be able to relate to me of losing a grandparent, but you don't understand, because there's no way we both had the same relationships with our grandparents. So it hit different for everybody else. But it's up to us on the flip side, if you're not going through the grieving process, that you be a help to somebody that that may be. whether they lost a thing or a person. But be sensitive to people, because it is hard. When I think of even the holiday season and recognizing how it can be hard for a lot of people, I intentionally try not to be extra on social media. I might throw one little post up there with me and my family or whatever, Merry Christmas or whatever, but I'm not constantly posting something, throwing stuff in people's face. You don't know what people are dealing with, and I don't never want to be a trigger to somebody else. Now, I'm sure I will be in other stages and things like that, but I try my best, like wholeheartedly, to not be a trigger to someone else. I just want to be sensitive of the needs of other people when they're grieving or hurting. We're living in a world where people are so insensitive and so selfish. But my encouragement today for two things. One, for the person that's listening that may be going through grief right now, my prayer to you and encouragement to you today is, one, do not be afraid to reach out to somebody. We sometimes grieve and we want to do it all on our own. The devil wants us isolated so he can beat us up even more. Reach out to somebody and let them know, I'm just having a bad day. Do you mind coming visit, or can I come visit you? Or whatever it might be. Don't hesitate to reach out to somebody. Let people be that support to you. And if you're not okay, don't say you're okay. It's okay to not be okay. Amen? And then the other part is that if you're not going through a grief right now or that's hard on you right now, be sensitive to somebody else that that are dealing with that. Texting them, letting them know that you care, that you love them, and that you're thinking of them. Now, if you ain't praying for them, don't go telling them your people you're praying for them, and you ain't praying for them. You don't pray for yourself. Okay, but I quit. But anyway, that's my little 2 cents. I would say like my pastor, I ain't gonna be chasing them little rabbits. But you know what? It's just something so simple. Bring them a card. Letting them know, Merry Christmas. I'm praying that God gives you strength, encouraging you, whatever it might be. Do something special for them because it's hard, y'all. It really is hard. Let's be intentional to the needs of other people to make people feel love and show them that we care. It costs us nothing to be kind, nothing at all. Just a little extra effort. That's all it is. And it doesn't even cost anything. It's free. Give your kindness away with gladness. So we know that, Christmas is coming up in a couple of days, and I'm excited about it, to be with my family and stuff like that. But again, if you're going through this grief process and you need somebody, another family, maybe a friend and their family, go to your friend's house or whatever, if it's going to help you to not have to deal with it so much. And it's okay. They're going to understand because they know where you are. Don't hesitate to reach out. Amen. And know that God promises that he will not put more on us than we can bear. So he is your strength, and he will give you the strength that you need. Amen. Amen. So before Shay go, I just want to remind you, if you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Check out my website at www.talkswithshay.org. You can subscribe to my videos on YouTube and find me on Facebook. Like my page, share my page, invite your friends to like my page. And until next time with Talks with Shay, Shay is out. Y'all stay blessed.